reading from the Gospel according to John, beginning at the 43rd verse of the first chapter through the 51st verse, New Revised Version. The next day, Jesus decided to go to Galilee. He found Philip and said to him, "Follow me." Now Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him about whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus, son of Joseph from Nazareth." Nathanael said to him, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see." When Jesus saw Nathanael coming towards him, he said of him, "Here is truly an Israelite, in whom there is no deceit." Nathanael asked him, "Where did you come to know me?" Jesus answered, "I saw you under the fig tree before Philip called you." Nathanael replied, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." Jesus answered, "Do you believe because I told you that I saw you under the fig tree? You will see greater things than these." And he said to him, "Very truly I tell you, you will see heaven opened and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man." Here is the reading from the Gospel according to John. May God grant God's blessing this day in our hearing. Amen.
The Carter Center in Atlanta, Georgia, founded by former President Jimmy Carter, is guided by a fundamental commitment to human rights and the alleviation of human suffering. It seeks to prevent and resolve conflicts, enhance freedom and democracy, and improve health. A staff member was asked how he came to work there. He said something I've never forgotten. "Some people have a career trajectory. Others follow relationships and run for the light. I am one of the latter." I too am one of the latter. Some ministers will tell you that they experienced a call. For some, this was an actual voice from God or a spiritual experience that made it very clear that God intended for this person to preach or be a missionary or live with the poor in Calcutta. I believe them. This has never happened to me. Are there voices in my head? Yes. Did any of them say, "Hey, Anne, you need to go to seminary, get ordained, and serve churches in an interim setting"? No. Have I had spiritual experiences? Yes. Did any of those experiences make it clear to me what God intended for me to do for the rest of my life or for the next year or month or day? Nay. My dental hygienist knew when she was 14 years old that she was going to be a dental hygienist. I consider her to be blessed. At the age of 67, I'm still not entirely sure if I want to be a minister when I grow up. There have been days that I've considered library school. In retirement, I keep being drawn to art, collage, watercolor, coloring books, photography. And still, I continue to be in the ministry because I followed relationships, family, mentors, good friends, and I ran for the light. I was drawn to the family business, the kind of work that I hoped would heal more than harm, decrease rather than increase suffering, and might possibly have the potential to save the planet or bring world peace, something humble like that. And here we are, in Highland, at this curve on a winding, often disrupted road. And upon examination, on most days, I feel very much myself. Parker Palmer, a Quaker author, educator, and activist, has reflected deeply on his own calling or sense of vocation, the detours and distractions that have made a labyrinth out of a trajectory. He begins by quoting May Sarton. "Now I become myself. It's taken time, many years and places. I have been dissolved and shaken, worn other people's faces." And Palmer continues, "What a long time it can take to become the person one has always been. How often in the process we mask ourselves in faces that are not our own. How much dissolving and shaking of ego we must endure before we discover our deep identity, the true self within every human being that is the seed of authentic vocation." His contention is that callings are present at birth, that there are clues to what we are meant to do and be littered throughout our childhoods. Those clues get buried by the expectations and plans of others, the pressures of being socially acceptable and financially successful, or even the well-meaning moral chastisement that teaches us to quit being selfish and do the right thing, which might turn out to be the wrong thing if we were to look deeply and clearly at our unique purpose in life. Many of us take up a profession or marry a particular person, live in a particular place, have children or not for a variety of external reasons. Our context in many ways shapes who we become. Poverty or wealth, neighborhood or nation, skin color or culture, faith or philosophy of our parents, the nature of the family business, which third-grade teacher we got. All of our circumstances continue to influence our personal choices, including our choice of or options for our life's work. But because this is where we have ended up, doesn't mean that this is who we really are, and this is what we are meant to be doing. However, this may be exactly who we are and what we are meant to be doing. Only we can know the truth about this, and this is more likely to be clear to us if we examine our lives and do the spiritual discernment work around our God-given callings. In his book, Let Your Life Speak, Parker Palmer talks about what he calls the Rosa Parks decision. The social systems in which some people must survive often try to force them to live in a way untrue to who they are. If you are poor, you are supposed to accept with gratitude half a loaf or less. If you are black, you are supposed to suffer racism without protest. If you are gay, you are supposed to pretend that you are not. You and I may not know, but we can at least imagine how tempting it would be to mask one's truth in situations of this sort because the system threatens punishment if one does not. But in spite of that threat or because of it, the people who plant the seeds of social justice movements make a critical decision. They decide to live divided no more. They decide no longer to act on the outside in a way that contradicts some truth about themselves that they hold deeply on the inside. They decide to claim authentic selfhood and act it out, and their decisions ripple out to transform the society in which they live, serving the selfhood of millions of others. I call this the Rosa Parks decision because that remarkable woman is so emblematic of what the undivided life can mean. Most of us know her story, the story of an African-American woman who at the time she made her decision was a seamstress in her early 40s. On December 1st, 1955, in Montgomery, Alabama, Rosa Parks did something she was not supposed to do. She sat down at the front of a bus in one of the seats reserved for whites. a dangerous, daring, and provocative act in a racist society. Legend has it that years later, a graduate student came to Rosa Parks and asked, "Why did you sit down at the front of the bus that day?" Rosa Parks did not say that she sat down to launch a movement because her motives were more elemental than that. She said, "I sat down because I was tired." But she did not mean that her feet were tired. She meant that her soul was tired. Her heart was tired. Her whole being was tired of playing by racist rules, of denying her soul's claim to selfhood. Of course, there were many forces aiding and abetting Rosa Parks' decision to live divided no more. She had studied the theory and tactics of nonviolence at the Highlander Folk School, where Martin Luther King Jr. was also a student. She was secretary of the Montgomery chapter of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, whose members had been discussing civil disobedience. But in the moment, she sat down at the front of the bus that December day. She had no guarantee that the theory of nonviolence would work or that her community would back her up. It was a moment of existential truth, of claiming authentic selfhood, of reclaiming birthright giftedness. And in that moment, she set in motion a process that changed both the lay and the law of the land. Rosa Parks sat down because she had reached a point where it was essential to embrace her true vocation, not as someone who would reshape our society, but as someone who would live out her full self in the world. She decided, "I will no longer act on the outside in a way that contradicts the truth that I hold deeply on the inside. I will no longer act as if I were less than the whole person I know myself inwardly to be." Where does one get the courage to sit down at the front of the bus in a society that punishes anyone who decides to live divided no more? After all, conventional wisdom recommends the divided life as the safe and sane way to go. Don't wear your heart on your sleeve. Don't make a federal case out of it. Don't show them the whites of your eyes. These are all the cliched ways we tell each other to keep personal truth apart from public life, lest we make ourselves vulnerable in that rough and tumble realm. Where do people find the courage to live divided no more when they know they will be punished for it? The answer I have seen in the lives of people like Rosa Parks is simple. These people have transformed the notion of punishment itself. They have come to understand that no punishment anyone might inflict on them could possibly be worse than the punishment they inflict on themselves by conspiring in their own diminishment. I'm going to repeat that. No punishment anyone might inflict on them could possibly be worse than the punishment they inflict on themselves by conspiring in their own diminishment. I believe that the people who met and followed Martin Luther King Jr. brought their external lives and internal callings into alignment, found a way to use their innate gifts and live more authentically. By answering his call to nonviolent civil disobedience, I believe the same about the people who met and followed Jesus. Philip, Nathanael, Andrew, and Peter all came from Bethsaida. They had participated in conversations, maybe meetings, in which the liberator described in the law and prophets was discussed, hoped for, expected. Relief from Roman oppression, fair compensation for labor, a transformation of society as promised by God since before the exile and return. These ideas emanated from the core of these people and drew them toward a vocation that involved great risk and sacrifice. And when the Messiah showed up, they recognized him. saw their own purpose reflected in him. They stood up and left everything they had to follow him. They made the decision to live divided no more. Nowhere in our text does it say that these men decided to go and be Jesus. The disciples were very much their own persons, individuals with specific gifts and limitations and personalities. They were, however, called to use their passion and purpose to recreate society in such a way that every person could live out their true passion and purpose. There is a Hasidic tale that reveals with brevity both the universal tendency to want to be someone else and the ultimate importance of becoming one's self. Rabbi Zusya, when he was an old man, said, "In the coming world, they will not ask me, 'Why were you not Moses?' They will ask me, 'Why were you not Zusya?'" At every point in our lives, in youth, in middle age, in our golden years, our purpose, our reason for being is at issue. It is essential that we return to this question again and again, in work and in retirement, to clarify and confirm that we are living undivided. As Parker Palmer asserts, our deepest calling is to grow into our own authentic selfhood, whether or not it conforms to some image of who we ought to be. As we do so, we will not only find the joy that every human being seeks, we will also find our path of authentic service in the world. True vocation joins self and service, as Frederick Buechner asserts when he defines vocation as the place where your deep gladness meets the world's deep need. Have you found the place where your deep gladness meets the world's deep need? If you haven't, there is still time. Just follow relationships and run for the light. You'll know it when you get there. I want to close with an Irish blessing. May there always be work for your hands to do. May your purse always hold a coin or two. May the sun always shine on your window pane. May a rainbow be certain to follow each rain. May the hand of a friend always be near you. May God fill your heart with gladness to cheer you. Amen.